All right, welcome in everyone to the deep dive. Today we are really zeroing in here, going deep on some pretty powerful ideas that we've pulled together just for you. You sent us Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson from 37 Signals.
Right.
And our mission here is to really try to break this down, extract those core insights from their years of experience running this company. And what's really interesting here, I think, for us and for you listening, is that this isn't just sort of like theoretical business advice. You know, this is stuff that they have actually implemented over a decade, more than a decade, of building 37 Signals and actually running it as a profitable business through, good times and bad.
Yeah, through the ups and downs.
For sure.
Like all those economic cycles that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And 37 Signals, they're the folks behind some really powerful tools that you've probably heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Like Basecamp, High-Rise, Backpack, Campfire. They're the brains behind Ruby on Rails.
Oh, wow. Which is a huge...
it's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, it underpins so much of what we experience on the web today.
Right.
So, we're talking about platforms with millions of users, a ton of, messages and interactions happening every single day.
Yeah.
So this isn't just...
Big scale.
Yeah, big scale, but also just real world application.
Right.
They're doing it. It's not theoretical. They've been doing it for a long time.
Totally. And what I really appreciate about Rework, too, is that it does offer this kind of different way of looking at how to, build a business, how to run a business, one that, kind of goes against the grain a little bit.
For sure.
And whether you are just considering starting something, like taking that leap into entrepreneurship, or you're already leading, a well-established company, the principles in this book are designed to kind of challenge your assumptions, I think, and really make you think about things in a new way. So it really makes you question, like a lot of the accepted wisdom around work and growth. So let's kind of unpack some of this, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
And I think a good place to start would be with this concept that they have. They call it ignore the real world.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
I love this one.
Yeah. So what's so fascinating to me about this idea is how often, like you hear that phrase, like, that'll never work in the real world.
Right.
Yeah. Like, as soon as someone comes up with a new idea, something novel.
It's like the immediate
It is a reflex.
defense mechanism. Yeah.
And Fried and Hansson, what they argue is that this so-called real world isn't really like some fixed truth, some immutable law of the land. But more often than not, it's actually, it's kind of a barrier to progress.
A crutch, an excuse.
Yeah. And it's a justification for just kind of like sticking with the status quo.
Right.
Totally.
So it's this idea that, that the real world isn't necessarily the right world or the best world.
Yes.
Or even...
And it's not even real in the sense that it's constantly changing. Right.
Yeah.
So it's using the real world as like a static,
it's like this
frozen thing.
Yeah, it's like a snapshot in time. And it's like, well, that's just the way it is. So
this is how it is and this is how it's going to be. So give up.
Right. Stop trying to
dreaming.
Change it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like the takeaway here for you listening is to really question it. Question that phrase.
Yeah.
Question it when you hear other people say it.
For sure.
And question it when you notice yourself thinking it,
Yeah, 100%. Like anytime that thought enters your head or someone else says it, like just pause.
Yeah.
Just be like, what assumptions are behind that statement?
Right.
What's going on there? Yeah. What are we really saying here?
Because often it's, we're afraid of change.
Right.
We're afraid of the unknown. So we try and protect ourselves with this idea that, it's just not realistic,
Totally.
But the thing is like the real world of tomorrow might look very different from the real world of today.
Right.
And if we're constantly just accepting the norms, we're missing out on better ways of doing things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to another idea that they have here that really stood out to me when I read this. And it's called Learning from Mistakes is Overrated.
Ooh, that's a spicy one.
I know, right?
I love it.
It's like, it feels like almost heresy in the business world, right?
It's sacrilege, yeah.
Like we're constantly told, Fail early, fail often.
Yep.
Like, that's the badge of honor, right?
I got to break some eggs to make an omelet.
You got to break stuff.
Yeah, that's what they tell you.
But Fried and Hansson, they're offering a really like contrarian perspective here.
Yes, and they're not saying that you're not going to make mistakes.
Right.
You're going to make mistakes, but what they're saying is that we actually gain deeper and more valuable insights from our successes.
Yeah.
So when something goes well, you actually have this concrete evidence of why it went well.
Right.
And that's something that you can then replicate and improve upon.
And they even cite some data here to back this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a Harvard Business School study
Wow.
that they mentioned in the book that found that entrepreneurs who had already succeeded with a previous venture, they actually had a significantly higher success rate
I'm not surprised.
with their future companies, 34%,
Wow.
which is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. But what's really, really telling here is
What's that?
the entrepreneurs whose first companies actually failed only had a 23% success rate with their next company, which is almost the same as somebody just starting from scratch.
Wow. So it's almost like failing. Doesn't give you that much of an edge.
Yeah, like it doesn't really teach you, in a statistically significant way.
Right. It doesn't give you that leg up that
It doesn't make you any smarter, really.
that the myth would have you believe.
Right, right.
So the thing is, success gives you a blueprint. It's like you did something, you did it right.
It worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
And now you understand why, and you can do it again and improve it.
So it's not about not making mistakes.
Right.
It's about understanding your successes.
Yes, and doubling down on them.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really where the roadmap for future wins comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now this kind of leads into another idea that I thought was really interesting, and that's planning is guessing.
Oh, that's a good one.
And this is another area where rework kind of goes against the grain,
Yeah.
Of this traditional, lengthy business plan, which, for a lot of entrepreneurs is just
Daunting.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
That's a lot of busy work, honestly.
Yeah. And it's all based on assumptions, right?
Well, and they take a pretty direct approach to these massive plans. That could take, months to create.
Yeah.
And they basically just say these plans are, they're based on so much guesswork
about the future. Yeah.
and so much about the future that, very often they end up being ignored. Right. Or they become outdated so quickly.
Because the world changes.
Right.
Yeah.
So things change and you're stuck with this
artifact from a different time.
Yeah. So if we're not supposed to spend all this time on these elaborate plans, what do they suggest we do instead?
Well, they recommend shifting the focus to shorter term actions. So instead of trying to plan for years down the line, think about what can you accomplish this week?
Yes.
What's the most important thing to tackle right now?
Right.
And then just focus on that.
Yeah.
Make decisions closer to the actual point of execution,
Right.
rather than trying to predict every eventuality.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, another concept that I think resonates with a lot of people, especially when you're thinking about your business goals, is this idea of why grow?
Oh, yeah.
They really challenge this, almost automatic assumption that bigger is always better.
Yes.
In business.
Yes, this is huge.
Right.
We're so bombarded with messages about scaling.
Sell scale.
Grow.
Right.
But rework really encourages us to question that inherent drive.
Right.
What are the downsides of growth?
Yeah.
What happens when you grow too fast? And they talk about how growth can introduce complexity. It can lead to increased expenses, more employees, bigger infrastructure.
It's more moving pieces.
More moving pieces, yeah. And then there's the often overlooked difficulty of actually shrinking.
Oh, yeah.
If you need to.
That's a good point.
It's much harder to get smaller.
Yeah.
Once you've gotten big.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what's the right size for your business?
Right.
Not necessarily the biggest.
Right. Not necessarily the biggest. Yeah.
And they're saying it's okay. It's even admirable to aim for a business that's sustainable and profitable at any size.
At any size.
Yeah. You don't have to be a massive corporation to be successful.
Right. And there's so much value in that, I think, for a lot of people.
Totally.
Right.
It takes the pressure off this constant need to grow.
Right.
And instead, it allows you to focus on building something sustainable,
right,
profitable, and that you can actually, enjoy.
Right. Okay. Another kind of sacred cow that they tackle here is workaholism.
Oh, yeah.
This idea that somehow, the more hours you work, the more you care.
Yeah, the more dedicated you are.
Right. The more you accomplish.
You got to burn the midnight oil.
Yeah, you got to hustle.
Hustle, yeah.
Right. But the book's actually quite blunt about this. Like, they call workaholism not just unnecessary, but kind of misguided, frankly.
Yeah.
And their argument, and I think it's a really powerful one, is that working more hours doesn't automatically equal increased care or increased productivity.
Right.
It just means you're working more hours.
It just means you're at work more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also highlight some of the negative consequences of this kind of always-on culture. The pressure it puts on other people,
Total
dip in morale.
Yeah, and the fact that, fatigue often leads to poor judgment.
Right. Right.
You're not making your best decisions when you're exhausted. Yeah, you're more likely to make mistakes.
Right.
You're not as sharp.
You're just grinding it out.
Yeah, you're just grinding.
Yeah.
And often, workaholics, they get bogged down in details
right.
that don't really matter.
Right.
They're mistaking busyness for progress.
Yeah. Right.
So the key here is to work smarter, not harder.
Right.
Find ways to get things done more efficiently.
Yeah.
So you don't have to live at the office.
Right. And that's a really good point. And then they have this other kind of provocative point, which is enough with entrepreneurs.
Oh, interesting.
And I kind of, when I first read that, I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what are they getting at there?
Yeah, like why is this, why are they so down on this term?
Right.
And basically their argument is that the term entrepreneur has become kind of exclusive.
Yeah.
Like
a special club that you have to earn your way into.
Yeah, and it carries a lot of baggage.
Yeah, a lot of expectations.
Right. And really what they believe is that everyone should feel empowered to start their own business.
Totally.
Regardless of whether they identify with this specific label.
Yes.
So it's about democratizing business ownership.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
You don't need a fancy title
right.
to build something valuable.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit here.
Okay.
And talk about some of the more proactive principles.
Yeah, the positive stuff.
Yeah, the positive stuff in Rework. And one that really stood out to me was make a dent in the universe.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
It's inspiring.
It's inspiring.
It's so inspiring.
It's about, finding that sense of meaning.
Meaning, yes.
In your work, right? And they emphasize the importance of feeling like what you're doing actually matters.
Right.
Like that it improves your customers' lives in some way.
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah, even if it's, a small way. It doesn't have to be world changing.
Right.
In the grandest sense.
Yeah.
But it needs to have a positive impact.
You have to feel it.
Yeah. Right. And they give some great examples.
Like what?
Of smaller entities that have had a huge impact.
Okay.
Like Craigslist.
Right.
Which really disrupted the classified ads industry.
Totally.
But with a pretty small team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they operated for a long time with a very small team.
Right.
Yeah.
And then another good example is the Dredge Report.
Okay.
Which is, a lot of people might not know this, but it's largely like a one-person operation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it has a significant influence on the news cycle. So
it just shows you that you don't need a massive corporation to make a difference.
Yeah.
It's about finding that niche.
Right.
Where you can make an impact.
Right. Okay, another really practical piece of advice that they offer that I thought was really applicable is to scratch your own itch.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
So practical.
Yeah, so practical.
Yeah.
So what is that all about?
What do they mean by that?
Yeah, what is the fundamental thinking behind that?
Well, they're basically saying that the best way to create a product or service is to solve a problem that you yourself experience.
Right.
Because when you're building something that you actually want to use, you inherently understand the problem and you can tell whether or not your solution is actually working.
Right. And a great example of this is 37 signals themselves when they created Highrise, which was their contact management software. It wasn't based on some extensive market research or trying to chase trends. It was literally just like
we need
a better way.
They needed it.
To manage our contacts. And then they just built it. And then other people were like,
I need that too.
Yeah, I want that. And they share some other really compelling stories.
Right.
Yeah, like James Dyson.
Okay.
With the vacuum cleaners.
Right.
It was just clogging all the time.
Frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's got to be a better way. And then, that's how he came up with the bagless vacuum cleaner.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Vic Firth, the drumsticks. He was frustrated because, he couldn't find drumsticks that
match.
Yeah, match perfectly. So he started making his own.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then Bill Bowerman.
Okay.
With the Nike waffle sole.
What about it?
Well, he was a track coach.
Okay.
And he wanted to give his runners better traction. So he started experimenting with different materials and patterns.
Oh, wow.
And ended up using his wife's waffle iron.
No way.
To create the prototype for the waffle sole.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, these are all just examples of
Yeah.
people solving problems that they personally experience.
Right. So the takeaway here is think about your own frustrations.
Yeah.
Your own unmet needs.
Right.
And see if there's a way to turn that into a business.
Yeah. Now, having a great idea is one thing, but Rework really stresses that it's not enough on its own. And they have a chapter called Start Making Something.
Yeah.
Which I think is really it's really important.
Action, action, action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the message here is that execution is everything.
Execution is key.
Yeah.
Ideas are great, but they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
It's the ability to actually bring those ideas to life that really matters.
Right.
So stop just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And start making it happen.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people struggle with, I think.
Totally.
Because it's easy to get stuck in the idea phase.
Oh yeah, you can tinker and tweak and
right.
and never actually ship anything.
Right.
Yeah.
You can get kind of paralyzed by perfectionism.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Okay, another common barrier for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs is this feeling of no time.
Oh.
I just don't have enough time.
I'm too busy.
Yeah, I'm too busy. I've got a job. I've got a family.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And Rework actually takes a pretty direct approach to this one.
What do they say?
They basically say not enough time is often more of a prioritization issue than an actual lack of hours in the day.
So it's about how you're spending your time.
Right.
Not how much time you have.
Right. So if something is truly important to you,
yeah,
like starting a business, working on that project, you'll find the time for it.
Yeah.
Even if it means making small adjustments to your routine.
Right. Maybe cutting back on some other things that aren't as important.
Right, right. And they even offer the practical suggestion of starting those passion projects on the side.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like a side hustle?
Yeah, like a side hustle while you're still keeping your day job.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of minimize the risk.
Yeah, reduce the risk.
Yeah, and really test your commitment.
And see if it's viable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really about taking personal responsibility.
Yeah.
For making your goals a reality.
Taking ownership.
Yeah. And recognizing that the perfect time to start is probably never going to magically appear.
It's never going to just happen.
Yeah.
You got to make it happen.
Right. Okay. As you're starting to build something, Rework really emphasizes the importance of having a clear stance.
Okay.
What you stand for, what you believe in.
Values.
Yeah, values.
Yeah.
And they call this principle draw a line in the sand.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
It's powerful here.
Yeah. And basically what this means is establishing a strong point of view, core beliefs that extend beyond just your product or service.
Okay. So it's bigger than just what you're selling.
It's bigger than just what you're selling.
It's about who you are as a company.
And they make a really compelling argument that taking a stand, even if it's not universally popular,
right?
Even if it might alienate some potential customers, is actually a really good way to attract your most passionate super fan.
The true believers.
Right. And those are the people who are going to become your biggest advocate.
You spread the word.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about quality over quantity.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you're not trying to appeal to everyone.
No.
You're trying to appeal to the right people.
Yeah, find your tribe.
Yeah, find your tribe. And they give some good examples of this.
Like what?
Like 37 signals themselves.
Okay.
You know, they have this really unwavering focus on simplicity in their software. And that means that they deliberately exclude certain features. Expert speaker.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.